Now, my name is Mary Kramarchyk. I'm the Urban Forestry Program Manager at the New York State DEC. I'm based in the central office here in Albany. I work in the Division of Lands and Forests, and I have access to all kinds of foresters. I am not a forester. I'm the program manager. I work with the USDA Forest Service to get our enabling money to run our program in New York State. Our foresters in the regional office here that they cover Region 4 is Dan Gaitis in the back and Bill Shangar in the back as well. How many people are, I guess you're all from this area. Is there anyone here from the Hudson Valley, or Region 3? Okay, yes? Okay, and most people are from the DEC Region 4, if you know? Are there other people from up north here, Region 5? Okay. So our foresters' names and information, it's all online. And when we get talking more specifically about the grant program, we have a list of our forestry offices within our RFA. So when I get to that, I'll point that out to you. Now, we have money available for all kinds of projects related to urban forestry. And believe it or not, if you live in a small municipality, it's considered an urban setting. An urban setting, as far as the federal government is concerned, is 500 people per square mile. So even when I lived down in Columbia County in Kinderhook, there was an area that was considered an urban area. The center where people work, live, shop, and do things is basically called your urban area. The Urban Forestry Program, the goals of the program are to provide best management practices to all communities in the state. Currently, we are serving 767 communities in the state. We're providing assistance to over 16 million people. We get our federal dollars when we present our accomplishments every year to them to help provide services back to the citizens of the state. The resources that the local forestry staff can give to you is assistance on grants, the Tree City USA program, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, technical and educational assistance, and networking opportunities for Shade Tree Committee members. Are there any Shade Tree Committee members here today? One. Okay, good. Other Shade Tree Committee members? It's very good that you're a volunteer, because if you're practitioners, certified arborists, and you're looking around in your community and seeing that the trees need help, what are you doing? You have to volunteer to your community and be on your Shade Tree Committee, because you are an asset to them. Yes?
What is the Shade Tree Committee? I never heard of it before.
A Shade Tree Committee is made up of volunteers to help the town or village, whatever it may be, with their trees. There may be someone that is educated in horticulture or forestry. There may be people that are just enthusiastic about trees. There may be people that want to plan an Arbor Day because they see that there are benefits of trees that need to be given back to the citizens of that municipality. So a Shade Tree Committee can take a little bit of the burden off the DPW or the group that does manage the trees in the community by providing maybe a list of those trees that could be planted in that municipality, the trees that shouldn't be planted in the municipality, the best trees for street tree planting, and planting opportunities throughout the municipality. So those are the benefits that a Shade Tree Committee can provide to the municipality. Now, Round 12 grant funds were provided through the Environmental Protection Fund, and currently, tomorrow is the deadline, sadly to say. But the next round of grants will become available in this spring. The Environmental Protection Fund is legislated through the New York State budget, through the governor's office, and through the legislature. Every January, I always watch the governor's proposed budget that he comes out with to make sure that the urban forestry line for grant projects is included in his budget. And if it isn't, then we rally our Shade Tree Committee members and our New York State Urban Forestry Council members to advocate for the line item in the budget so that we get our money for the Urban Forestry Program grant. Last year we had, well, every year, let me just get to this one. Oh, it's not in here. Let me just go back here. Every year we get, is this the pointer? We get $500,000 appropriated, or we've been fortunate enough to get the $500 line item amount for urban forestry projects throughout the state. This year we have $835,000 available in grant funds because last year there were some large cities that didn't apply for a grant, so we had some leftover money. Now we know that there's about a $12 million need, and I'm sure that there's much more, but we know of $12 million in need throughout the state for urban forestry work, such as maintenance, tree planting, inventories, and management plans. But last year, we couldn't spend all of our money. So this year, there are certain changes that came through in the grant, and more communities are eligible to apply for funding. Now, the funds are appropriated through the EPF language that the legislature and the governor agree on, and over the last several years, the language has not changed. However, last year, the language changed so that large cities and large towns can apply for half of that amount, and the rest of the amount that we get appropriated is available to smaller communities throughout the state. So in the past, we had 10 large cities, and then the population dwindled, so we were down to 8. And now the population has risen again in Schenectady. And so now they're back as a large city. And there were several other towns throughout the state that were added to that large community list. So now we have 25 municipalities that will be eligible for that upper half amount, and I'll get to what this all means in the next slide. And then the rest of the funding goes to the rest of the communities throughout the state that don't fall into that large community description. Now the legislature came up with this description, 25,000 in population in cities and towns, that's designated for large communities. I don't know how they got that number, but we've been stuck with that number for many years now. And we're okay with that as long as they will tweak the language for us so we can get more bang for the buck and spend all that money that we have. So there's 25 communities in the list right now. And how will funds be allocated? We have 5 categories of projects that you can apply for. Now this year, it's sort of a bust, but I have the RFAs with me. They're not going to change much next year. They will be available in the spring. I want to give out this handout before I go much further. And I don't know if I might have enough for everybody. So if you have a partner here from your municipality, just take one and share it, okay? And then this is my information in a basic one-sheeter on the grant program. But the Quick Start Arbor Day grants. What kind of community, who's here? Are you Columbia County? Who was it that said, what community are you from? Menands. Oh, you're from Menands. Now Menands is starting up. We just talked to your economic development person. Now Menands would be eligible. Let's just use Menands as an example. They don't have a shade tree committee right now, but they do have this economic development program that's really making a nice change in that village. However, they don't have the components of a Tree City USA. Now I'm going to hand out this flyer about the Tree City USA program. And like I said, just share it with your neighbors if you have multiple people from the same community. But the Quick Start Arbor Day grants is meant for communities that don't have a tree program or anything going on yet. So you can get $1,000 free money, no match. You just have to send in the application that we have, and you can start up your program. You just need to have an Arbor Day event in the spring or the fall. Any day is Arbor Day, so you can have Arbor Day whenever you want. And so that's the Quick Start grant. The tree planting grant for large communities, they can apply up to $50,000 for tree planting. There is a 50-50 match for tree planting grants. For smaller communities, you can get up to $25,000 for a tree planting grant with the $25,000 match. So that would mean that if you're requesting $25,000 from us in a grant, your total project would really be $50,000. And there's all kinds of ways that you can match that, whether it be cash, volunteer time, DPW equipment use, hourly wages of your DPW, or hourly wages of whoever takes care of the trees in the community. There goes the EAB. Tree inventories. Oh no, did this go away? Hold on. Tree inventories and management plans. The most important components in a well-managed community forest. You have to know what you have. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So you need to know what you have in order to do those good things that you want to do for your community by planting trees in the appropriate places. And knowing where you have your ash, knowing how many ash you have. In urban forests across the state, Andy mentioned some percentages earlier. It's 3.5% up to 6% of total population of ash in communities. Buffalo has 1.8% ash, so they don't have that many ash, and they don't have that many healthy trees either. I hate to say it. But there are some communities that manage their trees better. So I think Poughkeepsie has one of the highest amounts of ash in the city. And they are the oldest Tree City USA in the state. They're 35 years, I think, this year as a Tree City USA. Tree maintenance grants and invasive pest detection study grants. Tree maintenance, you need to have an inventory in place to apply for a maintenance grant because we want you to know what the heck you're doing. We don't want you going out there saying, this tree is dead, I'm going to take it down, when it really isn't. If you have an inventory and you have a note, this tree doesn't look very healthy, and you go, you have justification to take down that tree. If the political people say, oh, Mrs. Smith, she complained, she contributed to my campaign, she doesn't want the tree because she doesn't want to rake the leaves. Well, that's not a good reason to take down the tree in front of her house because that tree is giving benefits to the broader community. And that's justification not to take down that tree. So if you have an inventory and you have a plan, you will most likely be on your way to having a well-managed urban and community forest. Now, the invasive pest detection studies will come in very, very handy if you already have an inventory. The management plan and the inventories have no match. It's basically free. The grants are competitive, so it may be difficult to acquire the grant at your first shot. But if you do not, if you're not, I don't want to say eligible, but if you don't do that great of a job with your application first time around, just call me, call the foresters in the regional office, and they'll point out where you were lacking or where your application didn't quite meet the standards that we need to give you the grant. They're scored by points, and it's like a final exam. If you don't give me everything that you are asked to give me, you can't get full credit. So there are ways that we can help you, fill out the application so that you have a successful project. The invasive pest study, you need to have an inventory in place. And this is modeled after the city of Rochester. They have very, very supportive elected officials out in Rochester. For many years, they have had a forestry staff with certified arborists, technicians, all kinds of people. Currently, Brian Liberty, he used to be the forester in the city of Syracuse, is out there managing, but we have had experiences with the wonderful foresters over the years out there managing the forest in Rochester. And what they do is they have a full inventory, they have available planting spaces, they have description of the forest health of each tree, they have types of tree, they have canopy percentage cover. It's wonderful information that they can advocate to their elected officials to get more money every year into their program. So what they do is they take their inventory in binders, their tech staff, and this is, like I said earlier, what I based the invasive pest detection study after. They take their inventory and they go in the truck, someone drives and someone is there with the inventory, and they go to the particular trees and they inspect. Right now they're probably going to all their ash in their inventory, and they're getting out, looking at the tree. Okay, that's the kind of study that I would like to see go on. Because in Worcester, Massachusetts, where the ALB was for many years, they had a professional inventory done, but no one followed up on their inventory. No one looked at the trees. And there are about 5 species of trees left in Worcester, Massachusetts, and everyone's electric bills are high because they were infested with thousands of ALBs, and all the trees were taken down. Well, that's going to happen with the EAB as well here in New York. Right now, the Asian longhorn beetle is limited to the Long Island, New York City area, but 300 more trees were just found about 3 weeks ago on Long Island, so it's still a threat. So right now, we are offering the invasive pest detection studies on a geographic need. So if you have some other pest that is in your area and you want to do a study on it, you can apply for that. So the upstaters mostly will be applying for the EAB invasive pest studies, and the Long Islanders will be studying for the Asian longhorn beetle. Okay. Who can apply? Municipalities, school districts, nonprofit organizations. One proposal per topic per applicant, but we can accept multiple applications. If you want to do a tree planting grant, let's see, that wouldn't be a good combination. If you want to do an inventory and a tree planting grant, you can do that. If you want to do a management plan, because you already have your inventory, you can do a management plan and some maintenance. In Fayetteville, out by Syracuse, they've been doing their maintenance in phases, which is good every year. They apply for maintenance. In New York City, they have the Million Trees program going on, so they've been applying for tree planting money every year. They did a big, huge tree census back in '05, and they got a grant for that. It cost much more than the $50,000 they were eligible to get, but we did contribute towards their tree inventory. In the little communities out in, let's see, out maybe Auburn, little places like that, they're getting their inventories lined up because of the EAB coming across from the central part of the country and from Western New York. The changes this year. Has anyone applied for a grant before through the Urban Forestry Program? No, so you guys don't even know that there are changes, so this will be easy for you because it'll be all new. The match was dropped in those two categories, inventories and management plans. You can apply if you're a community under 65,000 for $25,000 to do your inventory. Now what we're talking about, we have specifics in our RFA about the inventory. We need, that means a full inventory. You can apply, we'll see how it scores if you just want to do an ash inventory, but we need it electronically. We want to see available planting locations. We want to see GIS locations for your trees when you're doing the inventory. We want to see species and DBH. And we will be collecting all those inventories when you submit for your reimbursement. That way we can do and continue our statewide observation of the tree inventory and see what our urban forest is made up of as far as diversity goes. We've been working with Cornell University over the years, so these inventories will go to better use, a tremendous benefit to the communities and to us on a statewide basis, so we can share that information with other communities. Now, all the grants are reimbursable grants, so you need to complete the work and then send in your paperwork for reimbursement. So you need that local support for the initial punch of money. But under this new grant, you can apply quarterly if you want to. I wouldn't recommend it because the reimbursement process is pretty intense. But you can apply for the first part of your grant and then use that money to finance the last part of your grant. And not all grants need the match, and the description of the project costs is right down here. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a minimum that you would need to apply for if you're a large city and a minimum for the small communities. So if you want to do a very small project, just have an Arbor Day, just apply for that Quick Start Arbor Day grant. Otherwise, do a tree planting grant and apply for at least $2,500, and then you can plant a substantial amount of trees. I know Capital District Community Gardens is represented here by a volunteer, and Capital District Community Gardens gets a lot of trees planted for the money that they spend. They use volunteers mostly. So it's a really great idea to use some volunteers to start your shade tree committee, and then ask the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whoever's around, high school kids that need community service to help plant some trees. Okay, I'm going to hand out some of these grants if you want to look at them, but when you see them, you're going to be a little frightened because they're this thick. But really, the new rule from the controller's office is that we needed to attach the master grant contract, and that's enough to make everybody fall asleep. But the master grant contract is this much. And so our application's like this. There's a description, there are some forms, and there's a checklist in here. So it's not really that bad. So I'm going to hand some out. And just so that you know, this is, maybe you could take and pass. This is this year's grant. Next year's is going to be the same, except it's going to be online. I forget what they call that. What do they call that? The CFA. It's going to be on there, unfortunately. Actually, if you're used to working with the CFA, it'll be easy. But for us, it's sort of new that we'll be up there on the CFA. So the forms on here will be all online next year, and it will not let you progress if you make a mistake. So next year, when you're applying for a grant, just call one of us. It's not a big deal. There's a list of forestry staff right in here, and if you look in the very beginning, we have a pretty detailed table of contents, so you can find everything very easily. The forester directory is on page 18, and you'll find the regional office's phone number. And I just want to get to some forms first so that I don't get everybody crazy. But it's all right here. If you're from up north, Region 5, the phone number's here, Region 4, Region 3, it's all here. And if you don't know your forester, it's a really great thing to get to know your regional foresters because you get extra points when you work with them on your application. If you have a natural resource professional, a landscape architect that you work with, you get points for that as well. But you'll get 10 points if you work with one of the forestry staff. You get 5 points if you work with some other kind of professional. You don't get 15 if you work with both, though. You get the higher of the two. Oh, let me go back because I didn't mention that. Okay, attachment C and Form B1. This is for the people that are used to the other forms, but the Form B1 is sort of like the budget form. And it was issued by the Comptroller's Office, and I just threw away those forms. Oh, no, I didn't. I think it's included in the RFA. But I just want to touch base on it because the forms are the general forms that the Comptroller's Office uses for all the grants. It's B1 in there. It's after page 22 and then onward. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because they list all the possible kinds of expenses that you might have or that anyone would have with any kind of grant that the state issues. But the forestry grants cover specific things. And all those things eligible for reimbursement or for match are listed in the RFA. So for an example, there are some large communities that like to get every single dollar back as possible, as much as possible. So we didn't think that fringe benefits such as vacation time or all of that should be paid for reimbursement. So because we want our money to go to trees and for helping give back those benefits to the communities. So we really didn't want to pay fringe. So we put that in our application. Oh yeah, you guys, remember, no fringe, just in case. So I know, I hope I'm not too late. But anyway, so I know the City of Albany, they're repeat applicants. So we're not going to reimburse for fringe anymore because we want to see more trees go in the ground. So we're making some assumptions that there are people already on staff that will be there to take care of the trees or do whatever that they're doing already. So why should our little grant that we only have $500,000 to go statewide go to pay someone's fringe? So we think that we made the responsible decision not to pay for that and just pay for the stakes, the soil, the mulch, the trees, anything else that has to do with the project. Maybe some devices if volunteers are taking the inventory, items like that are necessary for the grant. So on this form, this is a general form, and like I said, the RFA doesn't really cover everything. And then also on this, just for those people that have already used our grant program, attachment C, the work plan, there's a new form that describes what it is that The controller wants you to describe your project in detail, in steps, and that's a new form too. So you just have to fill out everything, and they want you to do exactly what you say because you'll be signing the contract, and we will accept what you say that you're going to do. And so that sort of holds people more responsible to what they said they were going to do in their application. So I think that's a good thing to some degree, but it could be a bad thing for those people in the end that try to finagle other expenses in on the grant. They'll have to stick to what they put in the very beginning. So we also include an application checklist to help everybody get by. Remember to include everything. I'm going to click through these slides so that you guys can go home. But let me see what else I have to offer. How am I doing for time? Am I right? Okay. Okay, attachment C, I talked about that. And like I said, these are the controller forms, and not everything on those forms is what we will accept. So just be sure that when you are applying for the grant, you just apply for what we say we're going to give you or reimburse you for. Where can trees be planted if you do a tree planting grant? On public property. No private property tree planting. That would be considered a gift to a citizen from taxpayers' dollars. So we stick to public property. Grants are evaluated by DEC staff. All of our grants will go to the regional staff because they know best about what's going on in their region. And then we have several other people in the central office evaluate the grants. We have non-forestry folks, we have foresters, and I'm one of the evaluators as well. And so we have a very good mix, and then all the scores get averaged, and then the bonus points get on at the end. Yeah, use the checklist so that you get all the points. The bonus points, let me go back. The bonus points are, if you're a Tree City USA, you get bonus points. I know Albany is a Tree City USA. Troy, I'm working on it. Get them a Tree City USA. I don't know. What other municipalities are here? Anybody? No one else from municipality wants to speak up? Okay, so we don't have many right here in the surrounding area. So become a Tree City USA. You get an extra point added to your average. That is big. About 95% of the people that got grants last time were a Tree City USA. The other bonus points are 3 points added to the average. Now, this was a governor requirement that we had to add to our application last year, was a correlation between your project and your regional economic development plan. Now, if your economic development plan doesn't say anything about planting trees, but it does talk about stormwater management, or it does talk about environmentally friendly community or shopping districts, you can say, our project contributes to the goal of improving economic zones within our region. And that would be great. That's all you'd have to say. And so currently, all the reports statewide that the Regional Economic Development Advisory Councils put together last year, they're all online at the Empire State Development website. So you would get 3 points added to your average if you relate your grant to that report. It's not a requirement, but if you want to get that grant, do everything I say. And in there, kneel down. No, I'm only kidding. So when you go through the RFA next year, look at the eligibility and look at the priority scoring, or whatever it's called, maybe priority points. And you'll get those points at the end. How do you find out about that? I need your name, and then we'll add you to the list. Give me your cards if you have it, or I can get it from the extension folks, and I'll add you to the mailing list. How's that sound? Good? Everybody's down with it. We do a press release, and we do a yellow postcard mailing. And so every year, we've done this for about 5 years maybe. We use this half-sheet yellow index card, and it says availability of funds on it. And then everyone's like, yay, you're going to apply for my grant. Usually have about 8 weeks to fill out your application, send it in, then we take about several months to evaluate, score, apply the points, get approval to go forward, and then we issue a press release. We'll send you letters. We'll call you if we're overly excited to tell you that you got the grant. And then you will get the contract in the mail, you'll sign it, you could start your project. Now this is a before and after tree planting grant. This is one of the sidewalks in Long Island City. This is like just beyond these buildings is the East River. They have such a beautiful view. We have a district office, a regional office down there, and this is where we walk sometimes after we have our lunch. But these trees are all newly planted by the City of New York for the Million Trees program. So it's what a difference it is to have trees here. And then here, this is a play yard at a school, and this is a simulated picture, but this is what it could look like. We're very excited. The benefits of trees, air quality, water, and these are the things you have to talk about with your decision makers, elected officials. And Andy Hillman left all those elevator speak cards. Like you say, you get one of these cards and you say, did you know that trees could lower runoff into our sewer system? And you have the little card right here. It's just like a little cheat sheet. And then go, here you go. Yeah, just take this. And then at the next town board meeting, you go, hey, we need some money for trees. Remember I told you about the benefits? That's what you have to do. Advocate for trees. Reduce soil erosion, noise, energy costs. They really reduce crime. They also slow down traffic. And there is a percentage out there of 22% that people shop 22% longer in business districts that have tree-lined streets. So remember that. How do you get on the list? Call me, email me. Well, my phone number's not there. Email me, write to me, or I'll get your list from the gals here at Extension.